Now, a couple days ago, it was announced in a statement by Kathleen Kennedy that a new position within Lucasfilm was being created, that being Senior Vice President of Live Action Production and Development. And as you know, if you watch my videos, I've been saying for a while that Lucasfilm needed a position like this. They needed someone like what Marvel has in Kevin Feige, someone who has a deep love, understanding, and passion for the franchise, and who can steer it in the right direction story-wise. And I've often suggested that Dave Filoni would be the perfect fit for such a job for multiple reasons, not the least of which is he worked directly with George Lucas for years on the Clone Wars, and arguably there's no one who understands Lucas's vision for Star Wars better than him. Not to mention he's loved and admired by most fans, and I think a lot of us would just be excited, not to mention appreciate, that a Lucas disciple, someone who worked closely with him developing actual Star Wars stories, was now overseeing the direction of the movies and live-action shows in the franchise. However, this job is not going to him, and to be fair here, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes at Lucasfilm. Perhaps Filoni was offered the job and turned it down because he wants to focus more on writing and directing. We know he's directing the first episode of The Mandalorian, so perhaps that's what he's building himself towards, and maybe in the near future he'll be working on his own live-action show or get his own movie, either of which would be amazing and I'd love to see it. Anyway, the person who has been given this job, who will now oversee all live-action production, is Michelle Rejwan. And if you're asking who right about now, well, you're not alone, because I and many others had never heard of her until a couple days ago when this all got announced. And apparently she has been working with J.J. Abrams for some time now, and in terms of Star Wars, she was a co-producer on The Force Awakens, and is a producer on The Rise of Skywalker. And in a recent press release, Kathleen Kennedy had this to say about her. Working with Michelle over the last 7 years as a producer on both The Force Awakens and now The Rise of Skywalker, I have seen firsthand her skills collaborating with writers and directors, and I've been incredibly impressed with her creative skills and her ability to manage the complexity surrounding these massive projects. I know the importance of building a team that you trust and have fun working with. It is paramount to our success. There's an exciting momentum building around the future of this franchise, and both myself and the Lucasfilm team look forward to working with Michelle in shaping the future in all areas of story development, from theatrical film development to live action content for Disney+. Okay, and before I get into that statement from Kennedy, let me just say this to Michelle Rejwan, not that she'll ever watch this video. Congratulations, and I wish you the best of luck, and please find a way to steer Star Wars in the right direction in the coming years. As someone who thinks it has not been managed as well as it could be or should be lately, I really hope and am willing to believe you can and will be part of the solution, and if you are, I will become one of your biggest fans, because I love Star Wars, and I only want to see it succeed. That being said, here's my problem with Kennedy's statement, and mind you, it's not the statement itself, it's the way it's said, and it ties into my problem with her overall. That being that this is the most generic thing I've ever read, and she rarely ever shows a passion for Star Wars in anything she ever says. Here she sounds like she's giving reasons why she just promoted someone to manage a frickin' McDonald's or something, not to oversee development in film and TV for what was once the biggest franchise in the world, until the guy some are now comparing Rejwan to, Kevin Feige, turned Marvel into that. So unless this isn't the whole statement, and I did check out several different articles looking for a longer version but couldn't find it, anyway, unless there's a longer version out there, Kennedy doesn't say one word about Star Wars in it. She doesn't even begin to say why Rejwan should be in charge of overseeing the direction of all live-action Star Wars, other than she's good with collaborating with writers and directors and can handle massive, complex projects. Which sure is very, very important, but a deep love and understanding of Star Wars might be pretty important too, and that doesn't even get mentioned here. And no, I'm not just saying you hire the biggest fan in the world and put them in charge of Star Wars. That's ridiculous. Experience and an understanding of the industry and a flat-out ability to handle the job is vitally important, and I'm sure Rejwan will do a great job in that department. But one of the big questions I have about her, and it doesn't even get touched on, is she a massive Star Wars fan or not? Again, not the only qualification by any stretch, but would I be able to sit down and chat with her for long hours and deep dive into the lore? Could we have a debate on just what is balance in Star Wars? Is her head filled with useless Star Wars facts? If I asked her, hey, what species is Plo Koon, would she give me a strange look and ask, who? Or would she immediately say, he's a Keldor, and fire back a question at me that I didn't know the answer to? Because as a huge fan, that's what I want and expect out of the people running Star Wars. And if you give me that, I'll eat it up and give you all of my money, Disney. I promise you that. I want them to live it and breathe it like I do. I want to feel their passion translate into the films and shows I watch. I want people who love it and would still be a diehard fan even if it wasn't their job. And sure, maybe Michelle Rejwan is all of that and more. And if she is, I sure as hell wish Kennedy would have mentioned that in her statement. But unfortunately, no one is talking about that, and most of the articles I read said how this was a step in the right direction for Lucasfilm because they'd hired a woman, and my only response to that is, what the hell does that have to do with Star Wars? What does that have to do with her ability to do this job? How are women not insulted every time someone says something like this? If I were a woman and got hired for a position just like this, and most of the articles online I was reading were just praising Lucasfilm for hiring a woman and not talking about me and how they thought I was, or maybe wasn't, the right person for the job, I'd be furious. And to give Kennedy some credit here, she doesn't even mention any of that in her statement, which I appreciate, because it shouldn't matter one way or the other. All that should matter is if she's the best person for the job, period. And if Michelle Rejwan is the best person for this, and she begins to turn things around at Lucasfilm, and they formulate some type of real good game plan going forward, I will become her biggest fan. But if she did just get this job because she's a woman, and I'm not saying I believe that to be the case, and more qualified men were passed over, then at this point, maybe Lucasfilm really does deserve to crash and burn. Because flat out, it's just bad, stupid business not to hire the right people, and what no one ever really talks about in this discussion is how this isn't fair to men. And I know I'm a terrible person for saying that, and men have had it so good for so long, and it's about time that women get a fair chance. And the thing is, I absolutely agree with that. Women should have every opportunity that men do. If a more qualified woman gets passed over for a man, that's wrong, plain and simple. But it's also wrong if a more qualified man gets passed over for a woman. And if you say it's not, if you disagree with that, then we don't and can never have true equality. You can't make up for prior transgressions against women by now committing the same ones against men. If an individual works hard and becomes the best, the most qualified person for the job, they should get the job. Nothing else about them should matter. And until that's the way we look at people, as only individuals, things are never going to be fair for anyone. Anyway, sorry for that little tangent there. I just find it unfortunate that so few articles I read are actually talking about Michelle Rejwan and are instead just talking about her gender. It's not fair to her. She's just got what may very well be her dream job, because for all we know, she is a huge Star Wars fan. But unfortunately, that's not what anybody wants to talk about. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me if you've heard of Michelle Rejwan, and if you're excited that someone is now actually overseeing some level of story development at Lucasfilm. Is this a step in the right direction, or yet another mistake? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.